Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing good. So continuing with LeetCode top interval question series, today we'll be solving contains duplicate question. So question is you are given an integer array nums and if any value appears at least twice in the array, you have to return true, or if every element appear once, that means every element is kind of a distinct, so you have to return false. So let's see if we see here one is appearing at least two times. So we return true. Here every element is distinct. We return false. And here one is appearing three times or at least two times. So we return true. Okay, so question is straightforward. Let's directly jump to the solution and the idea behind the solution. So let's take this example where every element is unique. Okay, so what would be the most basic approach? You iterate over this array and you some kind of a maintain a bucket. Okay, so let's say this is your bucket. Okay, as soon as you came across a number, you create a bucket for that number and you add that number into the bucket. Let's say you came across two, there is a bucket, you add that into the bucket number two. There's number three, you add that into bucket number three. Similar is the case for four, and similar is the case for five. So once you are done iterating, now you go to these buckets and let's say you call for some function key get me count. Okay, get me count. You pass that value or the bucket number, and the bucket will give you that count of that bucket. Okay. So once all these buckets are created, you have the numbers in the bucket. You iterate over each bucket, and you maybe call function get me count of that bucket number, and the bucket will return you some count. Okay. Now, if that count is greater than equal to 2, that means there is a number which is appearing at least two times. Okay, so in that case, what you will return? You will return true here because there is a number appearing at least two times. But if you once you iterate over these buckets and you see that there is a the value get me count for each bucket, let's say for x for each bucket is less than 2, in that case you return false. Okay, so one of the idea is you once you create the bucket, you iterate over this whole array, you update the buckets, and once you're done, then you basically iterate over these buckets, and then you check this value, and if either of them is greater than 2, you return true or you return false. That's the one of the approach. Another approach can be instead of iterating the whole array and then iterating the buckets, what you can do is, let's say you came across some number x, okay, while iterating this array. Now what you do is you call that get me count of that x. Okay, get me count of that x. So let's say bucket exists and that count itself give me a value, let's say f, which is greater than equal to 2. So you just return true here. Okay, and you don't need to iterate the rest of the array. Okay, that's the one approach. Now let's say instead of creating the different buckets and iterating over the bucket, let's say we have a magic bucket and which can tell me whether a number already exists or not. Okay, because here we have to see that the number exists at least two times. So if the number is already in bucket 1, okay, and there is a one number in hand, let's say you are iterating the array and you came across this x and there is this magic bucket, and you say ki get me count, okay, of this x which is already in your hand, and this magic bucket will give you that this number, or instead of get me count, let's say this magic bucket as a function is exist. Okay, so this magic bucket can tell, you give an input number x, and it can tell whether this number exists or not. If it exists, it will return true, or it will return false. So you are returning over the array. You are getting, you came across this number x. So you first call the bucket, this magic bucket. Okay, this number exists or not. If it exists, okay, so the number is appearing at least two times in the array. Why? Because it exists. There is a one number in the bucket, and there is a one number already in your hand. So that means the occurrence of this number is at least two times. So the output should be true here. Okay. But if you came across, if you does not came across any number which already exists, so what you say is that's false. Okay. So you come across this number, let's say x. If it exists, then you return true. If it does not exist, you add that into the bucket. Let's say you came across some number y. If that does not exist, you add that into a bucket. Z does not exist, add it into the bucket. So let's say in some point of time, after some point of time in the array, that number x comes again, you see all this is exist function, okay, and that will return true because the number already exists. So you can say that the number is occurring at least two times, so I'll return true here. So this approach of different buckets, I'm sure you know about the data structure I'm talking. It's a hash map of integer versus integer, where this will represent the bucket number or the value in the array, and this will basically represent the count. Okay, so initially count will be 0. As soon as you came across this number 1 which is not exist, you increment the count. So initially it will be 1. Let's say 1 come across again, so it will be 1 2. Okay. Again, I know that you know about the magic bucket. So the data structure I'm talking about is hash set. It will be like integer. So hash set returns whether the number already exists or not. Hash set basically store the number only once. So if you add two numbers, let's say 2 and 2 into hash set, so hash set will add this number only once. Okay. So okay, so I think this approach is clear. So let's see. So what you're going to do is, let's say 1 2 3 4 5, and let's say 1. So what you will do is, if exists, if this is true, you return true here. Okay. Else you don't do anything, you just insert into magic bucket. Now what you do is, if you see here, every time you came across this number, you have to check into the magic bucket. Number magic bucket, and you have to check from this. Okay, so every time you have to check from this magic bucket. So it's a operation. I mean, it's a costly operation. I mean, but it's a operation you have to do for each number. Now, what if I tell you that there is a better approach here? Instead of calling this bucket every time you come across this number and checking whether it exists or not, let's say there is another approach here. So we know that this magic bucket, if you add two numbers, same numbers, this magic bucket is going to store that number as one only. Okay, so let's say if you add 2 and 2, the magic bucket will have a entry of this number only once. Okay, not two times. So the, let's say I add 2 and 2, the magic bucket is going to store this number only as a one. I mean once. So the size of this magic bucket will be 1 here. So let's see if I add 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. So size will be, think about this. So the size will be 2 because the magic bucket holds the unique numbers. So it will add 1. Okay. When you try to add it here, it already sees that that number is already there. It's not going to add this number. Again, for this number, it's not going to add this number. It see it's not exist. It will add it. Once you came across this number, you see it already there. It won't add it. So size is 2 here. Okay. So for this input, the size will be 2. For this input as well, size will be 2. So here, what I'm saying is, if the number already exists, I mean, if a number already occurring in the array at least 2 times, so that there will be difference in size of this magic bucket as well as the array. Okay. So let's say in a unique case where a number is unique in the array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, size will be 5 here of the array. Okay, this is the array input. Now let's say we use this magic bucket and we store this into this magic bucket, these numbers. We see 1 does not exist, we add that. Same is the case for 2, same is the case for 3, same is the case for 4, same is the case for 5. So once we are done iterating the array and adding that into the magic bucket, we see the size of magic bucket is 5. So if the size of array equals size of this magic bucket, we can say that the numbers are unique in the array. But if the size of this magic bucket is, okay, the size of magic bucket is less than size of array, then we can say that array has duplicates. The array has occurrence of a number which is at least greater than 2. That's why the size of magic bucket is less than array. For example, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1. This is, let's say, your array. So what will be the magic bucket for it? Magic bucket will be initially 1 because it does not exist. Then 2 does not exist. Then 3. Then 4. Then 5. When it came across this, it's already there. So magic bucket won't add. So the size of magic bucket here is 5. Size of array is 6. Okay. So given that the magic bucket size is less than array, we can say that the number is some number is duplicate here. So in this case, as you can see, we have just inserted into the magic bucket all numbers, and then we are checking the size. So we are saying get size. So we are not doing each time if a number occurs. We just simply insert that. Okay. So this approach is a better approach according to me. Do comment and let me know which you find it better. So I hope you understand the idea. Let's directly jump to the solution and the code. So here's the code. We have created this magic bucket, and if the magic bucket already contains this number, we return true. Otherwise, if it does not contain, we'll add into a magic bucket. And finally, after this, if the array does not contain any duplicate, it will come here and we return false here. Okay. Now let's see the different approach which I talked about. So here is the another approach. We have created this magic bucket, and here we are adding that into this magic bucket set. And if we see the size of magic bucket is not equal to the array size, we return true because that means the number is appearing at least 2 times. Okay. Otherwise, we return false. Pretty straightforward. So I hope you have followed the question as well as the solution. Do let me know if you want me to solve any particular question. Until then, bye bye. Take care.